This is me after Toy Story 2 was released. I was 2 years old. This is me after Toy Story 3 was released. I was in middle school. This is me before Toy Story 4 was released. I just graduated college/university. And this is me after having just seen Toy Story 5 in theaters. I am 28 years old. We all grew up with these movies.
What is up, everybody? Random Random Man here, bringing you my review for Toy Story 5 in one take. Now, the plot of this animated adventure comedy drama film follows Jessie, Woody, Buzz Lightyear, and the other toys as they deal with the presence of Lilypad, a tablet who has become the new favorite plaything of their owner, Bonnie. Going into this movie, I was very much looking forward to seeing it, though not completely initially. Now, this is the 5th film in the Toy Story franchise, and what is there to say about this series, which started back in 1995 with the first Toy Story film? I actually saw this in theaters back in September when it was re-released to celebrate the 30th anniversary of that film, so I'll have a link to see that video I made reflecting on it and its legacy if you would like to watch that. But yeah, this is a landmark film in being the first completely CG animated feature film, which of course spun off into being such a huge franchise, being the first film from Pixar Animation Studios and going on with their legendary run that they would have at least until, I would say, 2010. Toy Story 2, I think, is even better than the first film. Toy Story 3, I think, is even better than the first 2 films. That is my personal favorite entry in the franchise. Then we got Toy Story 4, which I know among audiences is more divisive in terms of it ruining what the original 3 films had and not having a sense of finality and continuing on. I would say that I am a bit of a defender of Toy Story 4 when I reviewed it back in 2019, before I even saw more people not really warm up to it. But I think, yeah, nothing beats the original 3 movies together, as I think they're all masterpieces. But for having rewatched all 4 of these movies leading up into this new movie's release, I think this movie is a bit underappreciated because there is nuance in terms of the theming. And plus, the ending, when I saw it again, did get to me with how Woody became a lost toy and all. So now with Toy Story 5, we are getting another adventure with the former toys of Andy, which we have now gotten, as I'm clearly implying with me reviewing this film just now. And now they have been with Bonnie for the last couple of movies, and there was a new angle with this film that did make me more interested, in that it would be a toys versus tech type of approach, in that toys are now going up against technology, which in kids' lives in modern day have become more and more apparent and more integrated all around. I mean, like I pointed out in my intro, I am 28 years old, and I remember seeing posts all over social media earlier this year saying that those that were born between 1992 and 1999 have a sweet spot in growing up with a balance of non-technology and technology, specifically the internet and computers and whatnot. So I was interested to see how the toys in the gang would be brought back into the fold, and also how it would deal with this whole theming with Bonnie being the main human owner, being all around here. So starting out with the vocal cast and their performances, we have Joan Cusack as Jessie. Now, she is, for all intents and purposes, the main character of this movie, the main toy, if you would, after she became deputized as sheriff by Woody after he separated from the gang at the end of Toy Story 2. Or 4, excuse me. Oh my god. But at the end of Toy Story 4, that's when we saw the gang separate, and Jessie is now the leader of Bonnie's room and the rest of the toys. And Cusack has not been in a movie in a while, not since 2019, the same year that Toy Story 4 released. So it was nice to hear her back in the role of Jessie ever since Toy Story 2. And I think there's a lot more with her character this time around than what she has already gone through. And now having three owners. I mean, previously she had Emily, then she had Andy, and now Bonnie. And there's a lot of callbacks to Toy Story 2 to my delight in terms of how we are getting more well-rounded with her character. Sure, we're backtracking, but I think it works thematically, especially with how the rest of the film does go on here. Cusack, I thought, was quite excellent in this film. Tom Hanks returns as Woody here. He's more of a supporting player in this movie, and I think it works for his role here because he is technically not essential to the film. You could have done this movie without Woody as a character, and there is a bit of a retcon, if you would, in terms of him having previously separated from the rest of the gang, but now coming back somehow with a specific explanation. But that's minor. I mean, it's always great to hear Tom Hanks as this role. Same thing with Tim Allen as Buzz Lightyear. Not just voicing the former Buzz of Andy. No. He's also voicing multiple other high-tech editions of Buzz Lightyear that are also within this plot, mostly in the background before being integrated later towards the end. So that main trio, I think they're great, and we have a slew of returning players, but also some new players as well, too. Scarlett Spears is now the voice of Bonnie, and I thought she did very well here. There's also Lilypad the tablet, who is set up initially as the villain of this movie, and she is voiced by Greta Lee. I think that her character is initially set out to be, of course, the op or antagonist against all the other toys here, but eventually as the movie does go on and Bonnie uses the tablet even more, there's a lot more balance, I would say, in trying to go the whole toys versus tech angle here, and Lee's vocal performance, I think, certainly helps in that regard. Another new standout character is Smarty Pants, voiced by Conan O'Brien. He is a toilet training toy that is owned by another kid, which I'll get to later on, and I didn't recognize that it was Conan O'Brien at first. At least I knew he was in this, but when you first hear his voice, it's like, oh wow, he is actually putting on a performance. Kind of like how Jack Black doesn't sound like Jack Black when he's voicing Bowser in the Super Mario movies. So here, that is a big compliment I would give to O'Brien. He has a lot of the funny lines and moments here as well too. Definitely got me laughing, as well as my audience that I was with here. His character, along with two other toys owned by this other kid, Blaze, who I'll get to as well. Atlas and Snappy are also along with Smarty Pants here, and they have quite a bit to do once they're introduced into the film as well. And there's other vocal players that pop up in and out that are here and there. There's a lot of toys, of course. Some of them are either here in terms of cameos, physically, or just there in passing. But with the main core vocal performances that I have mentioned here, I think that they all do outstanding jobs as usual. And then we get into the writing of this film, also by extension directing, because the director of this film is Andrew Stanton, who is a veteran of Pixar. Previously, he made films such as Finding Nemo, which is very near and dear to my heart. This is the first theatrical experience I ever had. My first time ever remembering being at the movies here. So this is one of my all-time favorite films. I was 5 years old and in kindergarten when this film released, so I went bananas over it. I also own Finding Dory, which is seen right behind me, which I reviewed back in 2016. 10 years ago. Whew! I mean, wow. Hard to think that all of this is happening in the midst of all this coming together here too. Stanton also directed WALL-E from 2008, another all-time favorite in terms of Pixar. I would debate that this and Finding Nemo are top 5 best Pixar movies. He also co-wrote the screenplay here, and what is done in terms of course, the story, with Toys versus Tech being put in play here and Jesse having more emphasis, I think that is the thesis statement of this movie, to really have you go into and relate in a modern setting as to trying to have all of this coexist, or just trying to make sense of all of this together here. Bonnie specifically is not having an easy time making friends physically, and eventually her parents do get her this tablet. She's now 8 years old, and more and more nowadays, it's like seeming that kids have their smartphones and tablets, all that together. Like I mentioned, there was a social media post that I kept seeing all over the place about the ages or years you were born in and having the best balance of technology and not technology related things. I was born in 1997, and when I was going to high school, I did get my first smartphone, an iPhone 4, in 2011. So I did see like all of this change right before my eyes at a pretty impressionable age. And this movie really implements that, I think, well, in terms of the toys' reaction to Lily Pad being introduced into Bonnie's room. We get a lot more of Bonnie's room this time around. And of course, there's a lot of other things happening in the background here too. I mentioned that there are a bunch of Buzz Lightyears that are new high-tech additions. The opening scene of this movie sees a cargo ship or cargo shipment of all these Buzz Lightyears just crash on an island, and they eventually have to work their way back home, or as they see it, Star Command, because they are still technically in demo mode. And then the main story, of course, with Bonnie trying to make friends and the toys trying to figure out how she can socialize better. Eventually, we work into the home of another girl named Blaze, and that's where we meet those other three new toys that Jessie and Bullseye, because they eventually end up there, are going to deal with, and they're trying to get back home, but also try to help out Bonnie. All this is coming together. So there is quite a bit happening across this film that will keep your interest in seeing how it is all integrated together. As I've mentioned, Woody is back here, which is nice and all. He wasn't necessarily necessary to be in this story, but I can see why he is put back in here, not just for nostalgic sake, but also because there is a nice little re-up in terms of the rivalry between Buzz Lightyear and Woody in trying to do what's best for Bonnie and also trying to help out with the rest of the toys in the gang. Most of the rest of the toys are sidelined, but we do see a lot of the ones that we've seen since the beginning here. And I think the way the movie is tackling all of this together is very much in the realm of something that is timely and something that I think complements the franchise altogether. Now, I don't think it has the same nuance that the other Toy Story films have, which is hard to try and do because, like I said, the run of the first three movies are like perfect masterpieces, all-time classics in terms of not just animation, but just film in general. And rewatching these movies, it was very clear and apparent to me that I was witnessing that. And again, 4, I think, deserves more credit than it has. 5 is still very much in line with what the rest of the series has done and just how Pixar is always having stuff that's relatable for kids and adults. I think adults can learn a lot from all of this too because of what you need in terms of craving human connection, needing that, also balancing technology with not technology, all this stuff. And of course, for toys, having them trying to coexist with it all together, it is great to see that be just all around the big messaging and it being just so entertaining in the meanwhile. Which brings me to the animation here. It's only been 7 years since the previous Toy Story film, but the animation still jumps a bit in terms of seeing the high quality here. We get a lot of realistic looking backgrounds, a lot of wildlife and foliage that look great. The water, I'm always mind blown by the water in these Pixar movies because it looks so photorealistic, as if I can go out and touch it, like the opening scene in Toy Story 4 that took place at night and in the rain. I mean, whoo! The same thing here with the jump here in the animation. It also plays a bit with animation styles because at some points, when we get to see playtime with the toys from the perspective of both Bonnie and Blaze, it switches to like a watercolor 3D type of animation, which I think was so cool to see because we get to see it like in the mind of a child, but also it's playing up stylistically, and it's not just going for the realistic-ish 3D CG animated style that we've been accustomed to for every Pixar movie since 1995 with the first Toy Story film. And just how the movie plays around with certain visual cues, certain shots, how it moves all around it too. And there's other technical elements here that I have to compliment aside from the animation and how Stanton does direct it all, because he does it very much in line with what he has done in previous Pixar movies and falling in line with the rest of the Toy Story films. The film runs very well at about an hour and 40 minutes, so it's a bit longer than the first few films. I believe the last one was around an hour and 40 minutes too, but never do these movies feel like they are slouching or moving too quickly. I think they are the right package in terms of how they go together here. And then the music. The music is once again composed by Randy Newman. Randy Newman has composed not just all four Pixar movies, for Toy Story, I should say, previously. He composed all four previous Toy Story films, but also some other Pixar films as well, like Monsters, Inc., which he won an Academy Award for Best Original Song. He also won Best Original Song for Toy Story 3 for We Belong Together, and his theming and a lot of reprises are from the other movies and are implemented here. We initially hear a reprise of When She Loved Me, which he was Oscar nominated for from Toy Story 2. And then there's no original song by him this time around. No, he previously did an original song for the previous four Toy Story films, and now it is done by Taylor Swift. Now, I love Taylor Swift. I made it clear with some other videos that I've made recently talking about her films that have released in theaters. But here, she did an original song. She co-wrote it with Jack Antonoff, who has collaborated with her on many songs before in her now 2 decades in terms of making music. Like, wow, I grew up with Taylor Swift as well, too. And the song here, which plays over the end credits, I thought was so nice. It's reminiscent of her country roots, and it's clear that, yeah, she's trying to go for an Oscar this time around. She has multiple Grammys. She also has an Emmy Award, so all she needs is the Tony and the Oscar. I previously heard the song before watching this movie, and I think that on its own, yeah, it is a good song, very reminiscent of what she did in her earlier albums, and just fitting the theming because this is all tied to Jessie, most of it, and the emotional beats that are with her, I think, do resonate a lot, and also how we see Bonnie react with everything and trying to socialize with friends while using the tablet, but everything else here too. It all comes together, I think, in a very well done kind of way that I think still fits in line with what Toy Story has been doing for over 3 decades now. And it's hard for me to fault the movie too much aside from naturally going into comparison mode with the rest of the Toy Story films, because it's hard to try and go with the platinum standard that the first 3 films have done. I know some people will see this and they will like this more than Toy Story 4. For me specifically, while I really enjoyed Toy Story 5, I would say that I would put Toy Story 4 slightly above it, surprisingly, because I think the ending with how we got that beat emotionally with Woody and Bo, and also with them and the rest of the toys, I mean, just, wow, that hit me too. A lot of beats here in Toy Story 5 did hit me as well, but of course it's for a different kind of mindset and just seeing how the story is still continuing on. It's even been made clear and open that Pixar are going to continue to be open to tell more stories for the toys. And honestly, if they keep going like this and just trying to tie it all together for something that's relevant for kids, adults, anyone to watch it, I wouldn't mind seeing more of them. Of course, as I say with all the Pixar sequels that I have reviewed on my channel so far, I would love to see more original films from the studio because that has been their bread and butter and has made them legendary for over 3 decades now with feature films here. But in any sense, I think if you enjoyed the previous Toy Story films, you are at least going to enjoy Toy Story 5 and what it brings, not just in terms of a diversion and entertainment, but also in terms of the timeliness and just all-around impact of the themes that the story has brought here with all the toys again. I promise that's going to be the last pun I made with the toys and story, whatever. But in any sense, once again, I really enjoyed Toy Story 5. I definitely recommend it. With all of that being said, my final verdict for Toy Story 5 is 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Toy Story 5. Social media links in the description. Subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.